Hello everyone, welcome to Anime Know Me, and thank you for joining us for another One Piece video. We all know that One Piece has a complex story full of twists and turns, which make it unpredictable to know and ever figure out the fate that the story will ever follow. And there have been many events that make the story unpredictable, but one of the most important elements that might make the story take a completely different course is when a character loses their life. This impact would be increased even more if that death came from a main character like the Straw Hats. Now, so far nothing like this has happened, but with the arrival of the final saga, many pirates are going to be defeated and others will lose their lives, even in on-screen action. And our protagonists are not free from this fate. So in today's video, we're going to talk about the possibility that some of the Straw Hats could lose their lives in this final saga of One Piece, how impactful that event might be for the characters around them, and how it may impact the story itself. But before we dive into the video, if you're new to the channel, or even if you've watched a bunch of our videos, we'd be absolutely honored if you'd leave us a like, and even subscribe, and maybe leave us a comment letting us know what you thought of the video. It really helps us out, especially with that old YouTube algorithm, and it keeps motivating us to make more content. And if you'd like to help out the channel in a bigger way, consider sharing this video or another one of your favorites with a friend. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So my friends, in One Piece, our author Ichiro Oda has already shown that he's not afraid to take the lives of important characters, as in the case with Ace, which was Luffy's adopted brother. However, regarding the members of the Straw Hat crew, it's not possible to say with certainty whether any of them could lose their lives during this journey. But there are some reasons to believe that this is still highly unlikely. First of all, One Piece is a shonen series, and that is, it's aimed at teenagers who love fights and big confrontations, which generally has a much more optimistic tone and focuses on adventures and overcoming challenges. While some series might actually tackle serious and dramatic themes, just take One Piece for example. It's talked about slavery, oppression, political upheaval, changes in dynamics, and even what one might call justice. But even so, in shonen manga, it's common for the main characters to be protected from losing their lives, almost a bit of plot armor, unless it's for the purpose of advancing the story or the narrative. Secondly, the members of the Straw Hat pirate crew are extreme fan favorite characters who've been developed in depth throughout the story. If one of them, just one of them, were to lose their lives in a certain part of the story, this would be something extremely significant overall for the story and for us as fans, and it could also have a negative effect on the popularity of the series. In addition to that, if one of the main characters were to lose their lives, this would be extremely important to the plot and could also divert the focus away from the main story and change the general tone of the series. And this would be considered risky from a narrative point of view, since that history will have a drastic change in its destiny. However, it's also important to note and highlight that One Piece is still an unpredictable story, and that author Ichiro Oda has already proven that he's capable of surprising fans with shocking twists and significant changes in the story. Now, while it's unlikely that any of the Straw Hats could die in the story, especially Luffy, it's impossible to rule out that possibility completely. So although it's unlikely that any one of the Straw Hats could lose their lives during this final saga, there is still that possibility that it could actually happen, and even more so for secondary characters or opponents. And in many cases, they're going to lose their lives to advance the story. So it's not really possible to say with certainty which members of the Straw Hat crew could lose their lives during the journey in search of the One Piece treasure. And as I said earlier, One Piece is an unpredictable story, and author Ichiro Oda is known for surprising readers with shocking plot twists and significant story changes. However, it is possible to consider some of the factors that could influence each character's chances of losing their life. For example, characters who have a much more developed goal and story, and those who have already reached their life goal. Those people might have a higher chance of losing their lives at some point in the story. Additionally, characters who have more powerful enemies or who are specifically targeted by some organization or individual may also be at greater risk. For example, Luffy is the captain of the Straw Hats and the main opponent of the Marines and the world government, which puts him in a position of great danger. Throughout the history of the story, we've seen that many important characters lost their lives during difficult confrontations, and even lost their lives for a big change in the story to happen. The first and arguably most important one we saw inside the work was that of the great king of the pirates, known by many as Gol D. Roger. In the past, he was the greatest pirate of all time, and he was the man who discovered the One Piece treasure. Now, despite the fact that he was captured and gave up his life to be taken by the Marines, before he lost his life, it was he who revealed the One Piece treasure existed and is somewhere on the Grand Line. And it was that revelation that motivated most pirates to go out to sea and look for the treasure. And it's what still drives the story to this day. That wealth, fame, power, all of those things that all of the pirates in One Piece are after. The second major loss that we witnessed within the One Piece story, and that greatly impacted the story overall, and even our protagonist Luffy, was that of the death of Ace. He was Luffy's adopted brother and the biological son of the former legendary pirate king, Gol D. Roger. Ace was captured by Blackbeard and then handed over to the Navy and sentenced to death for being a pirate, as well as being Roger's son. Now, during the Battle of the Best in Marineford, to save Ace, Ace still ended up dying to protect his brother Luffy, and his loss is one of the saddest moments in the series, and it took a huge emotional toll on fans and characters alike. This singular tragedy probably motivated Luffy the most to want to become stronger. But not just Luffy, but the rest of the Straw Hats as well, because they saw in that moment how weak they were compared to the powerful enemies that awaited them in the New World. Another important loss that was able to shape a very important character is the loss of Corazon, also known as Rocinante, being the older brother of Don Quixote Doflamingo. Corazon had infiltrated Doflamingo's crew to stop his evil plans, and ended up taking a liking to Trafalgar Law, who was still a child at the time. Now, Corazon ends up losing his life to protect Law and ensure that Doflamingo didn't carry out his plans. So losing him was one of the most moving and well-written moments in the series. After all, it was this event that made it possible for Law to obtain the Ope Ope no Mi, curing himself of the disease that afflicted him, and also giving him a new goal of becoming a pirate with the singular purpose of defeating Doflamingo and his empire. Another tragic loss was that of Pedro, and it was another one of those very sad moments in the story of One Piece. Now, Pedro was a member of the Mink tribe and deep friend of the Straw Hats, and he sacrificed himself during the battle against Big Mom and her crew to ensure that the Straw Hats could successfully escape. Pedro's loss had a great impact on the story, because Pedro was not only a beloved and important character for the Alliance, but it also was the thing that established the alliance between the Straw Hats, the Mink tribe, and what set them in opposition to Germa 66. Now, ultimately, Pedro's sacrifice was necessary, because otherwise his allies wouldn't have been able to follow their plan, which was ultimately to flee Totoland and get onwards to fighting Kaido. And these are just a few of some of the important losses that have occurred in One Piece that had a huge impact on history and fans alike. Now again, the story is known for its ability to create complex and memorable characters, and many of these characters have ended up losing their lives in a tragic and emotional way. And let's be honest, this is one of Oda's greatest gifts, because he knows how to use these moments to advance the story and make the character's journey even more meaningful. Now, despite something being incredible, capable of changing the course of the history, the loss of a character in One Piece is a subject that always generates a great commotion and debate among fans. After all, the story of One Piece really isn't known for taking the lives of major or important characters very often. When it does, it has a tremendous emotional impact on the story and the characters that survive. We've seen several times where the loss of a character in the One Piece story has been used to advance the plot, create dramatic tension, or even change the course of the story, because the loss of that character has a great impact not only on the characters, but could ultimately change the course of history and the story overall. Furthermore, the loss of these characters in One Piece are also used to explore very deep themes such as friendship, sacrifice, and great courage. For example, the loss of Mary, the Straw Hat ship, was an emotionally powerful moment that showed the crew's dedication and how important that ship really was to them. And I know myself and many other fans shed many tears when we saw Mary finally go and have her last voyage out to sea. However, it's still important to note that a character loss in One Piece is always carefully considered by the author, and is not just something that happens for free. Oda often creates characters with complex and deep backstories, so taking their lives can have a huge impact, not only on the story, but also on the fans' emotional experience of that story. So as we can see, Oda could indeed take the life of a Straw Hat just to cause a big shock in the characters and a drastic change in the story. This would allow Oda to manipulate the story to the future that he wants to create narratively. So as we head deeper into this final saga, it's still going to be uncertain which character could ultimately lose their life, but it has to be a very important one that will make Luffy and the other Straw Hats change their ideals, or maybe even really get involved in something that they'd rather not like to, even going as far as wanting to take revenge for the loss of their friend, ally, and crewmate. So with all that said, my friends, we'd now love to know what you think about it. First of all, who among the main Straw Hat crew could be someone that, if they were to die, on screen or off screen, and let's be real, it would have to be on screen because that would be a significant occurrence in our story. But who do you think would have the greatest impact and why? Now, this is a question that's been debated largely across the One Piece community, but we'd love to know who you, our faithful listener on this channel, thinks and why. Secondly, what secondary characters would have an equal level of impact? impact. We already know that with the potential death of Law and maybe even Kid being gone, these are people that have had a major impact and a real big resurgence in popularity in our story. So where do you think Oda is going to take these deaths, and how might he use them as we head forward in our story? Let us know what you think in the comments below. So as we wrap up our video for the day, we'd like to thank you all so much for watching, especially those of you who've made it all the way here to the end of the video. Be sure you comment on any themes or ideas that you'd like to see in future videos. And also, since you've made it this far, give us a like and hit that subscribe button before you head out to take on the rest of your day. I can't wait to see you all in our next video. Let's keep sailing this giant sea together. Take care.